Got the Sunday morning guys here, Sydney and
Yeah.
Tokyo.
How you doing, Derek?
Good. More importantly, how are you?
Yeah, good, good. It's 5 days away, man. So uh this is just kind of the wait and see phase, you know?
Yeah, I'm curious to get all your sort of thoughts on what's going on and what could go on, and given that you've been to several of these, I want to know how it's different, how it's the same, how you've changed things, how you haven't. I assume everybody wants to treat it as normal as possible.
Yeah, well, I literally can only speak to us because
Yeah.
we haven't seen anybody else. So that would probably be the biggest difference. We go into the village tomorrow, so then we'll see everybody. But yeah, I'll be interested to actually see what the competition pool will be like tomorrow, in terms of tomorrow until the game start, in terms of like, are they going to limit the number of people in there, or if teams, when teams want to drop into the village or drop in. It'll just be interesting, right? Because each country has handled this differently, right? Like, so your fellow countrymen have been locked down for over a year, right? And so they've gotten this far, they've gotten healthy. Will they wait until Friday, next Friday, to get into the village and get going because of fear? That's the thing that I wonder about. Um,
Yeah, and it's not, and we'll get into this. We'll let some other people jump in, but it's not necessarily fear of illness and death. It's more fear of being disqualified, I assume, right? From testing positive, would you think?
yeah, I mean, again, like, I only know the information that you guys and the rest of the general public know if they're tracking, but it's just what we see on, BBC or whatever, like, news. But there's been two that have gotten caught and been sent back home. Just athletes in general. So yeah, it's no, I mean, I don't know. Would we use the term fear? I think so. I think it's like you're confident in whatever your country's, the way you've done it, because you've had X amount or zero amount of cases, and so you don't want to trust what everybody else is doing. And yeah, I think it parallels sport in general, right? So for the longest time, when there was no vaccination, then everybody was like, it's a level playing field. But that report just came out yesterday or 2 days ago or whatever, about the current reported vaccination rates within the NFL. And there's two teams that are below 50%. You know what, for us as well, it's like we know where we're at, but we don't know what every other country is like. And so yeah, it's gonna be interesting. But I think overall, bottom line is, I would say it's not much different than the previous three games.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we got some more people on here. Um, but yeah, I wanted this, obviously I wanted to get in touch with you because you're there, Keenan, and thank you for taking the time. I know you're probably especially busy with all the extra complications. So um I mean, we were talking for the people who've just joined. We were kind of asking Keenan, like, how is it different? How is it the same? But I think the one thing he mentioned about fear of the situation. Now, Keenan, correct me if I'm wrong. What happens if somebody does test positive? Are they just quarantined? Are they sent home? Are they not allowed to compete? Like, have they given you the lowdown?
Well, they told us it's quarantine for 5 days, but I also know that I think it was the Ugandan delegation, whenever Tokyo opened, which was a set of about 2 weeks ago. They showed up and they had a set of positives and they sent them home. So I would say, like, anytime international competitions are contested, you never really know the full on rules, right? um, I mean, you go back to, like, we think of, like, the things that we like, the sensational topics, right? And 5 years ago in Rio, right, it was like the Russian Icarus whole thing, right? Like, you tested positive, like, you shouldn't be able to compete, and yet the Russian delegation was there. They were just under a different name, right? So To the best of my knowledge, yeah, because I just saw what was a Serbian someone from the Serbian delegation tested positive yesterday, and they said that that person's just in quarantine for 5 days. So,
Okay.
I don't know if I think there's the rules that are stated, but how they're being enforced is a different set.
Yeah, and I'm just going through some of the news recently, and there was somebody, I think it was a weightlifter or something, disappeared. Like they said, well, he kind of we can't find him. Once he got in Tokyo, it's like, so is that going to happen too? Are people gonna? And obviously, the domestic population there would freak out if they knew that athletes were like going into the general population and all that. So that have they given you, like, that's what I'm wondering, like, what is the Japanese view on this versus the IOC, and then obviously you have all the other countries, but are there different lines of that you're hearing about?
Yeah, well, so like getting in was definitely a long process. I think from touchdown to when we got out of the Tokyo airport was close to 5 hours. So you get off. They have all sorts of like health, like contact tracing apps you have to download, and health questionnaires you have to fill out every day, and then you do a salivary test, and basically a set of 3 or 4 checkpoints that you have to go through, where they just are rechecking everything in terms of your like passport number as it correlates to your like test tube, as it correlates to your like your credential. So I think landing the country is very, very strict. And then once we got out, I would say I've because we're in a hotel now. We don't move into the village until tomorrow. Just and looking out my window now, I would compare it to the United States, maybe like the fall. It's open-ish. It's like open-ish, but there's not a lot of people going around, and people still have their masks. We are staying just in our hotel, so we go from hotel to training venue and back. Um, and there's people in the hotel, and I thought they were going to be like, you know, it's the Americans with their COVID that haven't like followed anything, but I haven't gotten that sense at all. So, whereas I thought just the way we were reading it, right? Like, so all you guys, like, you're reading like Tokyo was very strict. Tokyo threatened to cancel it. I mean, that we were going to get here and it was going to be like America, like the world back in March or April, like when it was just everybody was locked up. But it's not that. I mean, there's still traffic. It still takes us 45 minutes to get from our hotel to the venue. So it's interesting, like the way it's being uh, perceived and the reality of what's going on here.
Yeah, I just want to open it up. Do you have anybody else have any specific questions for Keenan while we have him on here? Mike Hurst, what's the Australian perspective on all this?
Um, yeah, good question. I don't know what else thinks, but just on that topic of being positive in competition, I had read months ago that a decision had been made that if you subsequently, say won the gold medal or a medal and then subsequently tested positive, like a week later or 3 days later or whatever, they were not going to take it off you. The medal would stand, the results would stand. But there is obviously a pretty strong case either way to suspend that athlete and suspend performance. But I guess if you don't know and if you've passed all the tests, some of these people are, they're positive, but they're not. It's not showing up. They're not symptomatic. So how do you detect that? And is it that person's fault, or is it your system's fault, the system of your national federation, or the host organisation? I don't know. We're taking it pretty seriously here. We've lost a couple of very good people who've tested positive, a tennis player and I think a cyclist. But that happens at every Olympics, doesn't it? But it's just sad that this bloody virus is just it's messed things up severely on so many fronts. And it's obviously some of the team selections are different this year than what they would have been last year when the games were supposed to happen. I don't know how many people have missed out, but it's really unfortunate. And I know in my personal case as a coach of a girl, of a few people, but one girl was the second ranked 400 meter runner in the country and would definitely have been on the 4x4 team and qualified a national team for the Tokyo Olympics. And then she got involved in a tragedy where one of her friends died in front of her, and she's got severe post-traumatic stress disorder, and she just has not been able to pull it together, and so she's missed the team for the Olympics. And that's just sad. But anyway, I guess it's wandering off on a tangent. Sorry, Derek.
Okay, sorry. Anybody else have any questions for Keenan while we have him on here? Rob?
Yeah, Keenan, I have a question for you. Does the presence of COVID deter focus? Do you think that's going to affect performance?
No, it hasn't. It hasn't this up until this point. I think if anything, our staging camp, which we did before we flew over here for 2 weeks, I think it heightened the training impact, and it heightened the the kids, they're not kids, but whatever, the athletes' excitement for the games. Like they're not talking about it. They're not, I mean, they know it's out, obviously, right? They know it's out. It's like a shark, right? They know it's out there. They got to be careful. But I think because they've gone through it for a year, they're taking their own precautions, and each one of them's different. It's no different. Athletes are no different than society. So some are extremely, strict. Like as soon as they're out of the water, they got the masks on, and when they're in the weight room, they still keep their masks on. And other ones, not as strict. But it's not. Because I thought the same thing after our trials. I was like, I wonder if these kids are going to be worn down with like, well, what if a COVID outbreaks? But it hasn't been a topic of contention, really.
All right. If Dr. Rodeo is there, please send them my regards.
Yeah, Scott's not here this time, but I'll still send him your regards.
Is everybody on staff and all the athletes fully vaccinated, from what you understand?
Sure. From what I understand,
yeah.
But look, I know it, but I don't. Just out of respect,
Yeah.
I think most people are. I think we follow. I think we exceed like what society trends are. I think in the whatever it was, the New York Times or Wall Street Journal article about the NFL vaccines, I think they said that 85% is what the top 4 teams are, and I think they said like the U.S. rate is at about 65%. We're way above that.
Yeah. Ken, do you have any questions? Do you have anybody over there?
Don't have anybody yet. Have somebody leaving Saturday. So actually, Keenan, anything surprising? I have a USOC athlete, a track cyclist. Anything that wasn't in briefings or anything that surprised you getting in?
No, but definitely like I said, have them prepare for the long wait once they get there. So we heard everything from 90 minutes to 5 hours, and it's every bit of 5 hours.
Yeah, our track cyclist is a little fortunate. They had UCI opened up an international event in Hong Kong, was the first one in a year and a half back in May. And it was a great test run because it so far sounds like it was worse than everything in Japan. They literally had 24 hours in the airport, 56-hour travel, lockdown on every floor, escort in and out. They sprayed the lobbies and elevators between different teams coming and going. So it really couldn't be much worse. So luckily they kind of got used to it already.
Yeah, I would say like had their checklist. What we went through with our whole delegation was all the apps that they require you to download. The biggest one is this is like the health tracking app. It's called OCHA. Make sure they have that downloaded. Make sure they have like their passport, all their identification on them at every time. Their pre-travel. So they're going to have to do a 24-hour and a 72-hour test, both them. Just keep your hard copy and then a digital copy. It's just those types of like, because if you get off the plane, you don't have it downloaded, then you're going to have to download it and go back to the back of the line type deal.
Yeah.
Because we had everything. Everybody, we'll call it 80 of our traveling party, had all of it, and it still took us that long.
Well, like I said, luckily they had a long test run, so right now we feel like we got everything lined up.
Hydrating while they're flying on the plane before they get there, because there's that because it's salivary, you can't have anything in your mouth 30 minutes before you do it. So it's just like, you're right, those are just like the simple. You get through that, then you're ready to go.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And they're far outside of Tokyo, so our athletes, all the track, and we have the rest of the camp hosting now. So, yeah, they'll be down about 4 hours away from Tokyo. So it'll be curious to see what they do down there and what's same or different.
What's the situation on the ground, Keenan, in terms of like accessibility or mobility? Like, are you in a contained athletes village where there's a fence around it, and then can you go outside of that?
Yeah, well, I won't know until tomorrow. Like we'll move into the Olympic Village tomorrow, but we've been in a hotel, and like I said, if they wanted to break our rules, our protocol, they could just walk out the front door and walk around Tokyo. But I think it's so important to them. Like, we're here, right? Like, no more playing with fire or anything like that. And then within the high performance center where we're doing our training, again, swimming's like one of the first sports to go, right? So we'll compete starting 5 days from now, and then track and fields after that. So like the two largest delegations, they're separated by a week. So I think we've seen some like fencers over at the high performance center, and that's it. Like, I haven't seen many athletes. There's lots of staff people. I mean, there's, a dozen cooks for maybe 200 people. But it's quiet. So I think that's good for the athletes, right? There's not a ton of media hoopla. There's not like paparazzi outside our hotel. There's not, thankfully there's no protesting or anything like that. So I think it's a really calming environment.
Keenan, are they going to allow all the athletes to remain throughout the whole Olympic Games, or at the completion of your event, you have to leave?
Yeah, we fly out the 2nd of August. So we finish and we're out. I think that's, that kind of coincides with the, no fans type deal.
Can I ask a quick question? Did you guys do anything to prepare psychologically for the difference in attitude, or did you guys do any prep around that? Like, you mentioned a great thing about the paparazzi and maybe protesters that you might run into, or are you guys doing anything? Did you bring more team psychologists along or anything like that?
So we didn't bring any more as a staff. And I think, so I'll backtrack. I think, when we take big wins out of COVID, the telemedicine aspect of it, so telemedicine support with whether it's a certified mental performance coach or an actual behavioral health person, I think that's right. So that maybe, I'm exaggerating, but maybe all 53 athletes brought their own, because it's right here, and they just, can call them and can do a session. in our traveling party, no, we kept with there's still one person that the USOPC assigned to us. And then I know within the village, they contracted way more support than they typically have brought to previous games. Whether that is COVID related or not, I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think a lot of it comes on the back end of the heat they took from the Weight and Gold documentary. They just need more support. You know, it'd be like having one athletic trainer or one physical therapist for 553 athletes. It's just not going to work, you know? So I'll have more in the village, and of all kind of three levels of psychiatrist, psychologist, and then licensed social worker.
Keenan, Sam and I actually wanted the same thing. I know they've been broadcasting about, oh, we're making these cardboard beds, da 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 da. So, is that the truth, or that's just a bunch of media BS? I mean, I got to know.
No, I've only seen the pictures that you guys have seen, so I can send you a picture tomorrow of what it looks like. It can't be. There's no way it can be just cardboard. Just I mean the size of, I mean a weightlifter or I mean the track sprint people, track throws people, like they would obviously smash it. So I think it looks cardboard, but there's no way it can be.
Ryan Krauser is not going to fit in that cardboard box. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, right. Like javelin throwers, and yeah, there's no way. I think it just looks cardboard. I don't know. I'll send Derek a picture, and then he can send it out to the group.
I hadn't heard about cardboard beds. That's okay.
Yeah, just Google it and it'll pop up on the images, because people are starting to move into the village, so they're starting to, you know, post what it looks like and things like that.
Do you guys have any restrictions on social media and posting for athletes and all that? Because it could get a little crazy, I guess.
Yeah, there is. And it seems like it's more than it's been in the past, which I guess makes more sense. Like TikTok wasn't around 5 years ago, and Instagram was not as big 5 years ago. So maybe that's why it seems bigger. But I'll tell you, Derek, like when we had our debrief of it, I was loosely paying attention because I don't have a huge social media presence to begin with. So I was like, well, all right, I'll take pictures and then show them to my friends and family when I get back. Seems like that follows the rules easy enough. But I know it's like I don't want to screw it up, but it definitely seemed a little bit more strict, that they're limiting like what the athletes can post and can't post, and when they can post it. I just remember like one of the big walkaways being is like, all right, so we can take these pictures and perhaps we can't post them until the 2nd of August, because like what are they going to do once you're done? Like they're not going to like come back, try and hunt you down and take your medal from that, you know?
Yeah, have there been any changes in regards to how they conduct? Well, you won't know until it's done, but how they conduct like drug tests as part of the games too?
Yeah, you know, if it's anything like the way we've done it at our build-up meets and in our trials, the only difference is that they have a mask on. The doping control officer has a mask on. I remember it being a substantial issue, obviously early on with COVID, just with travel restrictions. So hopefully there was someone local to continue like the random drug testing, and then the 6 feet, right? So making sure that you could find a bathroom large enough that could host 2 people in it for 6 feet distance. But all is normal here.
Ian, is there anything you have to go through when you return to the States?
I think just anything, just like any normal outside traveler. So my guess is we'll have to show our proof of our salivary COVID test, and then once we go through customs, it's gonna be the same thing.
I don't understand how it works. We have a current spike in Australia, and if you go interstate, you've got to have written permission to go interstate, and then you've got to spend 2 weeks. If you come back from anywhere, you've got to spend 2 weeks. If you go somewhere, you've got to spend 2 weeks in isolation. I don't know how it works up in Japan. I guess they've changed things because they have to, because it's the Olympic Games and they're trying to make everyone feel welcome and whatever. But the other thing that's kind of weird is that, I mean, how many of the national teams, what percentage of national teams have actually been vaccinated? Because you can't force someone to be vaccinated, but maybe they should, especially with the new Delta variety blazing through the world. And the other thing is that in Australia, people of a certain age have only been able to access the AstraZeneca bug cure. And my understanding is that in America, the AstraZeneca is Australian made. We have an Australian made version of AstraZeneca, and it's not acceptable. It's not recognised in Europe, and I believe it's not recognised in the USA. So I don't know how that works. Maybe it's just open slather in Japan, but I couldn't find anybody that that knew whether our version of it was acceptable to the medical authorities in Japan. So it's a lot of unknowns.
Yeah, and I think it's such a challenge to, like you said, they can't mandate it. Although I just saw an article that all the UC school systems, so UCLA, UC Berkeley, and then all the smaller ones, they're mandating it for people to be back on campus. But back to the games, yeah, I think it's. I mean, when you just look at it, you think of some of the countries that will be participating. I mean, every country's eligible, right? And I mean, just the general population in some of those countries probably doesn't have access to one of the vaccines, much less like in the United States, right? We've got access to 4 different ones. So I think that was whoever had to make those decisions. That's definitely a tough one, right? Because on the one hand, that's the greatest thing about the Olympics. It's such a global unifying event. And so you have people from Burkina Faso competing with people from the United States and Canada and Australia. But on the flip side, it's like those places, those geographical areas within the world that the general population doesn't have access. Even the 65-year-olds and above don't have access to the vaccines as readily available as we do. To disqualify an athlete that's worked their whole life for this because of that, that would just, I don't know if I could make that call. So God love the people that did. And, I guess to that point, just prayers that it doesn't, we don't get some report that there's like 20% vaccination rate within the village, that would scare me, but I think the athletes would be so laser focused that they wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah. Are there rules around like fraternizing with other teams, other countries, like even on a staff level? Like, have you guys talked about that?
I that was my understanding. And then talking to one of my colleagues, he just moved in 2 days ago to the village. He's like, yeah, it seems like a normal village to me, which I'm like, not good like that. No. I'm not down with that. Like, I fully anticipate like going in, living in our dorms, going to the competition venue and coming back.
Wow.
Yeah, because it can get out of hand in the village quickly. Just in general, before COVID was on the scene, so now that you kind of got this pandemic, you could have
I know there's some other restrictions by some delegations too. We have some former staff who are still with China Swimming, actually. And I know obviously that they are being really, really strict with their delegation. Fits them anyways, but they really don't want them doing anything. They are watching their own athletes, that they don't go anywhere, do anything, talk to anybody. If it holds true, but it's supposed to be pretty restricted.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see like what the dining hall is. Like here, they have the plastic partitions up on all the tables. But I'm interested to see, if they, in order to manage contact tracing just a little bit better, if they're going to say like whatever, like the US, Canada, Australia, and Great Britain are in this little part, and other countries, because after that it would be next to impossible if there was a case to do contact tracing, right?
Keenan, what did you mean by get out of hand? When you said it can get out of hand pretty quickly in the village, what did you mean by that?
Oh, I mean, there's kind of three categories of people here, or athletes here. There's those that are coming to win medals, final, go personal best. Like, this is still very important to them. There's some that, like, just making it was they're good, and so they'll stay on their plan for the most part. But if there's a shiny object, they'll go check the shiny object off. And then there's others that are like, I'm here to party. So like, performance isn't part of their plan. Which is so when you think of like impaired sleep, just basically that impaired sleep, and kind of just chaos going around, that it doesn't impact us as an NGB, never has in my experience with the Olympics, because everybody's kind of razor sharp here. But that being said, like, time on the elevators, because people are like going down to go to the discotheque, like, our athletes have to wait because the elevator, there's only 2 elevators in the village, and just people being loud outside your outside your village room. That's what I mean by that. So so if you have that mentality, you have that opportunity, and you have Uncle COVID hanging around too, an outbreak could happen pretty quickly.
Yeah, because I heard that was a problem with like conventional flu in the past, and even like venereal disease, like those types of things as well. So it's not, now this could be even more serious and more infectious. So
yeah, right. Like upper respiratory infections, right? So we know that, right? With I think most of you guys work either track and field or some at a an endurance type sport, and right, that's the number one limiting factor. Is once you start hitting your taper, right, your immune system starts to weaken, and a little sinusitis strand could be hanging out on on your bottle or whatever, and the athlete picks it up. And so, although not a huge thing, right, but they got the sniffles, they got some postnasal drip, like that's what we used to worry about. Now you think about when your immune system's compromised, there's a whole other layer to it coming out.
In terms of being contagious, I've read that it's variously 1,000 times more contagious than the original COVID-19 virus, or 1,250 times more contagious. I don't know how they calculate that, but it's a scary prospect, and it's basically airborne now. You can catch it from 5 or 6 meters away. If you've got one person who's training in a pack.
That's why we got these, right?
Yeah, the salad bar spit shield will not do.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean, like, coming back to it, like bubble gut, some small GIs track, because people are so it's just got to be on your P's and Q's a lot more. So I do think that from like a primary care health stuff, so GI, upper respiratory stuff, this is the healthiest team I've ever worked with. And I think it's because of the masking. I think it's because people are perpetually just putting hand sanitizer on. People are more mindful, right? The Apple tells you how long you've washed your hands to make sure that you've washed your hands long enough after you've gone to the bathroom. I just think like the simple health precautions that we teach our children, then somehow we forget about them as we get older. Like those things have really, really helped out. And people just being a little bit more mindful of, going up to, you said, like the salad bar or fruits, like washing the fruits themselves as opposed to just assuming that the apples have been washed before they were put out. So I think that's helped out a lot.
Mm.
Would you say that you guys have more to lose? Like if you look at, I watched your trials, very competitive. If you make the team, the American team, you got a chance, right? So would you say, compared to, I'm not going to compare you to another country, but some countries, like you said, are just happy to be there. So you guys have to be that much more careful because you have, again, more to lose, would you say? We can talk about your chances and your performances, potential performances.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's no different than any other games. Is that I don't know if we have a lot more to lose, but I mean, the general thought process of USA Swimming is like, we're here to win. We're here to do our best. We're here to at least match our times that we went in trials. And if you do that, like just the numbers will tell you, if you match your time from trials, you're sitting pretty good to be podium, definitely will final. And then and I think that's what's going to be the interesting after action items, is just looking at seed times. And like it always is, like seed times by event, seed times by country, seed times by those that swam early on, those that swam at the end, right? So time zone acclimatization and readiness to be able to swim well, like the first day, as well as like the medley relays the last day. So lots of times you see that where countries were favored to whatever final, and then like their two big legs, they wear down, whether that's like travel fatigue, exhaustion from media, village fatigue, all those things that factor in. Like those are those plans, those mechanisms, those systems that we put into place to prepare for that. Like those, for us, those are still in. So we got here Thursday and we don't compete until next, we don't start to compete till Sunday. So just getting that proper acclimatization, with finals being in the morning for NBC, getting up and being able to go fast in the morning, like all those things, they play factors. So it'll be interesting to see a lot of those things. I think we all, I was thinking, like, it'll be pretty cool to see like the Sherry Ma free throw accuracy. Like, be interesting to see the, from basketball, because that's an easy kind of like, we're shooting percentages for, I don't know who's playing, for Devin Booker, the same in the games as his normal standard was in terms of traveling over here and getting used to those things. Will be, I think, just for us that are like, I guess, sports nerds, it'll be interesting to kind of see those things on the back end of it.
And there's no opening ceremonies that you have to worry about.
Not that I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. No opening ceremony.
We typically don't. Our Rio aside, Rio was kind of like an anomaly of a fluke because Michael carried the flag. But typically, if you're competing the first couple of days, you don't walk in opening ceremonies because it's long. Like, you stand in that stadium for hours.
Yeah. Any other questions for you guys? Come on, Eric Marriott, you must have a question related to coffee. No? No. Well, I mean, I'm certainly interested in watching, just the performances. And even, honestly, Keenan, the thing that's going to be interesting to me is, how are the media going to cover this? Like, is it going to be a distraction to keep talking about testing, COVID, whatever? Or is it just going to be a straight, Olympic coverage like we've always seen it before?
I hope so, because that's what our trials was. It was like, it was talking about the performances as opposed to like this nonsense.
Yeah.
So I hope so, right? Like that'd be terrible. Like if we have like these, we're gonna have these phenomenal performances, right? Like I don't know if any world records will get broken. I don't know if everyone will get broken. Like that's a great thing about stopwatch sports is that you can predict all you want, but just freaks will take care of that thing. But you know, if we have these great performances and we're still talking about, you know, if we're getting, we're in day 3, day 4 of competition, they're still talking about, are you worried about COVID or do you feel like vaccination rates and things like that? I hope that's not the narrative.
I have a quick question as well.
Yep.
Sorry, Derek.
Go ahead.
Did you guys address the no fans issue? Like, obviously, you talked about it, or I would assume you would have. It's just a personal opinion, Keenan, I realize, but how much do you think that's going to play a part here?
I think it's in some ways it's going to be an advantage for us. Like we've got a really young team in terms of age and in terms of first time on an international stage. So I think that will favor them in many ways. But in other ways, like right, like you get juice from fans, and so I would say it hasn't been a huge point like we've had sessions to talk about it, you know, because I think if you over highlight it being different, then that's what they're going to think about, is it being different. But so again, like I wonder this, is that a disadvantage for all the Japanese athletes, because it's the only people that can be in there is going to be their fellow countrymen. And so just the external pressure of performance, I just wonder, I'd love to hear our contingents from Japan. And again, we won't know that until after the games, right? The dust settles, if they can say like, yeah, it was tougher on us because the you know, like they were representing their countrymen, and literally their only their countrymen were, and women were in the stands. But it will have to be a factor in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, because I mean, I've seen swimming, and even I think track's doing it a bit, but you guys have almost like a walk-in, like you introduce the athletes, and you know they come in one, and that's when it, I guess, a chance when the crowd can engage them, but it'll be a little quieter, I assume.
Yeah, it'd probably be just like NBA games early on, NFL games early on, right?
And do you know if they're gonna pipe in any fake
yeah, I don't
crowd
know.
noise?
That'd be like thunder sticks and stuff like that. That'd be awesome.
Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to just watching how everything. I'm hoping it's seamless and it looks just like a normal Olympics, but you know, it'll be definitely interesting to see how it's covered.
I can tell you for us on the fans, the one of our track cyclists, she is a Keirin racer, and Keirin is massively popular in Japan. Like it is like horse racing. People go, and it's a professional sport. There's schools for it. So Japan, they're good at it. They're having great times, and we're actually excited that they won't be in there, because that should help her out quite a bit, because they would be cheering big time for that event over there. So we're hoping it's an advantage in this case.
Yeah, right. Like I think we'll all take whatever, I don't want to call it competitive. We'll take whatever we can get, right?
And I guess there's less distractions of like your athletes wanting to go watch other sports, you know, and
yeah, I think because it was announced so much earlier, that kind of like let down of being like, because I mean that's so many of them look forward to being done and then just hanging out in the village and going to, you know, see those unique sports that that aren't big in the United States, like the speed walkers and stuff like that. And then obviously everybody always wants to go watch Team USA basketball, right? Like all of our kids want to go watch that. And so I think because they had time to accept like this is just not going to happen. Like, they're not going to be able to do a closing ceremonies and shoot over that. It's not weighing on their mind as much.
Yeah, and I'm sure they would have been interested in seeing like the new ones, skateboarding, surfing, climbing, and all that as well. So, Bob, you came
I thought I'd be the closer here. Come in.
Yeah. We've peppered Keenan with all of our questions and annoyed him immensely.
He's worn out. Look at the guy. He needs a whiskey sour or something. I don't
know. You got any questions for him, Bob?
Not really. I just want to make sure I checked in. I know I had some gardening duties and such. So, what was the major theme here? What did Rob object to? What did Ken say? I agree 100%, and I'm going to write a book about it or whatever.
It seemed to be that we were just asking him about, like, what have you had to do differently? Especially with his experience, and is there, and it seems like everything's going to take a little longer, a lot more waiting, and there's still a lot of unknowns. So, yeah, in terms of them moving into the village and whether or not they're sleeping in cardboard boxes. So,
they had an outbreak in the village, right, Keenan?
Well, just one case, which I guess one case is considered an outbreak, but yeah, I think. But like I keep saying, I do think those things, the fact that they're making you get out as soon as you're done, you got to get out. Like, you can't stay and watch. So we're out the second.
Oh.
That'll help. Again, that'll help reduce the potential for outbreaks.
Are they asking people who are done competing to leave? Because
they're not asking. They're telling you. Your credential gets like deactivated as soon as like.
Shit.
Wow.
That's 48 hours on the a bunch of the sites there. And just in terms of the cardboard beds, the frame, I just looked it up. The frames are made of recycled cardboard, so it's not what everyone's thinking. They actually looks like a normal bed, but it's just the frame is made of recycled. So
they're not throwing like Costco boxes at you and going free for all. Okay.
No, but the gymnasts are sleeping in matchboxes. So
it's come to this.
Wow. But it's funny, like those things. That's why I said like those things don't change. I remember. So moving into Rio, Brazil didn't pay like their contract, like their construction contractors, and so they got pissed, obviously, and so like the construction workers were like filling up the toilets with cement, and so there was tons, not the U.S. house, but like I think it was actually the Japanese delegation, like their medical clinic, the ceiling above it collapsed and like fecal matter and sewage like collapsed on there.
Wow.
And I remember my good buddy Scott Dickinson. He's a strength coach for Australia, and he was there with but he was one of those the coaches that got huge benefit after the 2000 games. And anyways, he was working for Denmark or something like that, and he spent most of his first 4 days not being a strength coach but a janitor. He was like cleaning up because, like, rightfully so, right? These contractors expected to get paid, they didn't, and so they were taking like the neon lights and smashing them on the grounds and stuff like that. So the fact that like the village is not optimal conditions like that, so that won't change a lot of mindsets, I'm
just wondering if Japan will have payback for Brazil at this games. Little saran wrap on the toilet instead.
I mean, remember in was it Sochi or whatever? Like the Olympic ring lights didn't light up in 2013, right? Like when Russia like was hosting it, and they tried to light up the ring. Like even like it's only like 4 out of the 5 lights like lit up. Like so, it's definitely not like the like the Super Bowl where everybody's staying in 5-star hotels, and so that aspect hasn't changed. So I think having that kind of mindset of suboptimal conditions, but having, like that's kind of our mantra, right? The Olympic Games is about having the most optimal performance under the most suboptimal conditions. I think continuing to have that mindset will really be fortuitous.
Is there a contingency plan in case an outbreak does occur? Like has your staff, maybe they haven't spoken to the athletes, but has the administration or the staff been instructed, if X happens, this is how we're going to adjust everything?
We have one, but a lot of it is just, what can you do, right? Because we're at the IOC's dispenses. So my guess is if we started to see like a huge uptick in cases, we try and get out of the village and get into like where we are now. The IOC may say, like, once you leave the village, you're gone. You know what I mean? Like, and then Tokyo may also say something to the same extent, right? Where they were like, we didn't want this to occur. We're keeping you guys in your little, like literally, like we're locking the doors. You guys can't come out. So,
wow. We never stayed in the village. We always had a hotel. One of the reasons was, that's why I was asking about could you leave, is that in Beijing, Karch Karai said, look, if you guys think you're going to go all the way, you're going to be there for a month, while the people who compete in the first 2 days are done and they're just going to party all night every day. So you guys shouldn't be in the village. And we went and visited it, but you didn't have to leave until the games were over, I guess. We ended up playing the whole time because you get the round robin, then you got the tournament. But we had a hotel, which is why I was going to ask you if they've already made that move, or if you could make it on your own. I can't imagine them trying to keep you in that joint if you wanted to go. Who knows?
Yeah. I just hope it doesn't happen.
Crowds to adversely affect performance in any events, any sports.
What's that, Mike?
Sorry, Keenan. They're saying that there'll be the grandstands will be pretty much empty. They won't have a big audience there, not millions on TV, but not live, not cheering. Do you think that might adversely affect performance in a significant way, or it would be irrelevant?
I think it just not the performance side of it, but like, when people are ahead of world record pace or closing in on, just the crowd gets more amped, and those close races, like we always think back to like that 2008 freestyle relay, right, where we ran down the French, and just the that will suck, like when you heard all the early reports of the bubble last year, right, or even the NFL season this year, right, like guys said it was tough, right? Like you break off a long run, or you go on a 10-0 scoring run, and it's just like there's just no emotion, right? And that's when you see some people that are just, man, between the ears, they're the best, right? They just become subconscious, and whether there's fans there or not, they just don't care,
It'll be interesting. I wonder if the networks will pump in an audience on their broadcast, even though there's no audience at the game.
The commentators are just gonna be the talking heads will be talking more.
Yeah. Is Michael going to be a commentator?
He is.
Yeah,
he is. So that'll help with viewership. That NBC will get their money, but right, like, so this is the first time baseball's back since, when did it get taken off, Bob? 2004.
I think so.
No, because they were in the airport in 2008 when I landed. They were getting taken care of.
So they've been gone for 2 games, so they're back. But right, could you imagine a game with no? Well, I guess they had it last year in MLB, but they pumped in the noise. But if they don't pump in noise, it's gonna be like watching a high school game.
It's a boring game. I think to your point, Mike, I would say that, especially professionally and amateur wise, I'm not all that, but I know for sure professionally, you get a guy like Terrell Owens or something like that he's got to play better when there's people. I think it really does affect them. Now that would take them down to maybe a mortal level, but I think, I can imagine some of these guys who like to play to the crowd, and there's a bunch of them in the pro leagues. I can't imagine it not affecting them.
I'm just referring back to Doha, the most recent World Athletics Championships, and that's pre-COVID. And for some reason, the locals didn't support the meet. Maybe the tickets were too expensive or whatever. They did on the final weekend. I think they just threw the gates open and they had capacity. Up until then, there were handfuls of people around the place and it was silent. But it was in terms of the quality of performance, it was the highest quality of performance ever at a track and field world championships.
Wow. Okay.
During the final, you don't hear the crowd.
Gentlemen, some of you guys might know, I was out there for USA's. I had a guy qualify as decathlete. And as far as the ticket sales, it wasn't bad, but this USA effed up. It was the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. They like, no one could get tickets. It's like, all right, we're going to space everybody out. We're going to have, section here, section there, which is great. I understand they're trying to space us out. But a lot of the people's families literally had to scam to get tickets because they effed up all the tickets. And then when they finally able, we literally had people told me, I forged my tickets to get in. And they were trying to pay, but they wouldn't let them. And so finally, when people were able to get in, everyone was spaced out. It was very, very secure. Everybody had the problems. No one, was disrespecting the rules. Everyone had masks on. And then, of course, the athletes, as they got done, the families would run down. They had like a little section where the families could, say hi and everything. Because I ended up sitting with Allison Felix's brother and her husband and her cousin. And so, of course, she'd come up and say hi to her husband and the child. Everyone was very, very respectful. But as far as, I hope they don't do that in Japan, because it was just horrible. And believe me, USA got called out for it.
But Adrian, wasn't there that issue with you smoking weed with a few athletes before the race?
Well, that was behind the scenes. So they didn't catch me there. So.
Sorry, couldn't resist.
Hey, Derek, I don't mean to drop you short, but like I said, I got a hard.
Well, thanks for the time as it is, Keenan, and definitely best of luck. And hopefully, it's not a problem. That it's seamless, and you guys just get to do what you showed up for. So
yeah, we'll circle up, Derek, after.
Yes, we got to talk Michigan football. So
hey, Keenan, one more thing.
They Keenan, suck.
I just flew back to the NSCA National Convention and watched the documentary that Michael's on. Was it Glitter Gold or what was that?
Way to Gold.
Way to go! Tell him I was just mesmerized watching that thing, and that was really, really, really good.
Will do. I'm sure it paralleled a lot with guys and gals that you've worked with over the years, regardless of sport.
It's the same old story, right? What happens when the cheering ends, kind of deal. But this was even way more than that, that I didn't know. But Ross Flowers, do you know Ross?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hired him. So he's going to start his second year with us, and I coached him at UCLA. Anyway, I'm going to talk to him about this because I think we're going to try to get something going forward.
That'd be awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Bob. Thanks, everybody. And
good luck.
For your time and good luck.
We'll see you.
Take care.
Don't beat the Aussies.
Yeah, how's the Aussie swimmers doing?
Strong.
Okay.
But America's always the test, isn't it? Kind of like in basketball.
Yep, they're the measuring stick.
They are.
Oh. So anything else we need to talk about? I see that the NFL is pouring $4 million into hamstring research, and Tom Brady piped in and said, well, you should just talk to my guy or me. And I thought, well, talking hamstrings, Tom Brady talking hamstrings is like asking Stephen Hawking to talk hamstrings. Like, come on.
Is that what he said? Did he really say that?
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys heard this or not. I heard the University of Wisconsin got that. I don't know if that's true or not.
Is that the hamstring center of the universe?
Yeah, I'm just saying they got the 4 million to do the research. That's what I heard. I don't know if it's true, but that's what I was told.
Oh, so they fund. So they're not funding their own work. They're going to send money out to get it. Where
I assume, yes. Bob, you know as much as I do. I just know that statement. I'm just telling you what I heard.
Wisconsin will come back with like, you guys should be training in the off season.
Well, I mean, the
you
whole
put a bid in.
Yeah. Should have got a bid in there, Rob. That could have been you, bro.
I'm not going to Wisconsin, Bob.
Yeah. I laughed so hard when I saw that thing. Seriously, $4 million to do a hamstring thing. How about we finish the concussion thing first? I mean, I'm not sure that there's a connection there at all. Let's try to get that out of the way.
Whatever the hot topic is, right?
Okay, gentlemen, remember, I just left the Olympic trials. I sat with Rich Orenberg, the USA Olympic relays coach. I was with some of the best in the world, and they didn't want to bother to call any of these guys before they decided to do that.
Well, it's because they'll see like one hamstring pull in track and field and then write them off, right? Even though they run, thousands of kilometers more than any football player. So it's interesting. But did you see the CFL one where they had 6 Achilles ruptures in one day?
I asked him.
Yeah, 4 Achilles ruptures in 6 minutes in one drill, Bob.
What are you guys doing up there?
I told Al Vermeil, I said, they're doing depth jumps off of Zambonis. And he took me seriously for a few moments. But
did you see the part where they said, Derek, did you see the part where they said, but it's something we do every season. This is just a normal drill.
Yeah.
Season. So that was in the same workout. 4 Achilles ruptures in the same workout in 6 minutes.
6 minutes. So the first one happened, and they're
on
like,
the same team.
Keep going. Yeah. The second one happened. Keep going. Right. So
if you're the strength coach, you're getting Uber just right on the field. I'm just you got no chance of surviving their explanation of anything there. Wow.
Derek and I were talking about it, and we said what was going on after the first one happened. Like what after the first one went
or the second. Let's give benefit of the doubt.
Okay, give the benefit of the doubt after 2. Give him 2 then. What was going on?
I think it was
the streak.
A dare.
Do you think it could have had anything to do with the new shoes, the new sprint shoes or athletic spikes?
I think it's more just not training and then trying to jump back in to what they always did, right? So, and even if it was the shoes, like, everybody stop, take your shoes off. We got 2 Achilles ruptures.
Like Dean says, there's 6, right? So you go after 2. How about after 4?
Well, the other 2 were on the Alouettes, right?
Yeah, it was another team.
Montreal.
Same day.
Saskatchewan lost 4.
6 same day, 4 with the same team within 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, this stuff just never ends, man.
Yeah, and Solomon Elamimian, who Derek and I have worked with numerous times, he's the player rep. And Solomon actually blew I wound up doing the rehab on it, but he blew his Achilles. He was surgical as well. They did a surgical repair on him. So he's got intimate knowledge of what that all is about. And the CFLPA is just up in arms right now about the whole thing. And these guys, 2 of them are covered. 2 of them were not non-starters. 2 of them were They lost 2 starters and non-starters. So there's this hullabaloo about them not having insurance now. And we all know it could be career ending. So yeah, it's a big deal.
Who's getting the $4 million contract to do the research into that?
Yeah,
it's just move the money over.
It's the CFL.
Yeah, the CFL would be like a
$4,000
$4,000. Here's $4,000. Yeah.
Jesus.
Oh God.
Right. There's dollars and cents attached to that. That doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's the same budget as Australian ice hockey. So
which type of cents are we talking here?
What's that?
Which type of what?
Cents. Cents. Cents and cents. Sorry, I'm having a play on word there because there might not be much sense in that workout.
Sense. Oh, sense. Somebody's burning incense for him. So,
Wow.
Well, thanks for jumping on, everybody. I just wanted to get, I know Keenan had a small window there at 6 a.m. in Tokyo. So he gave us his time. So hope everybody else is doing well. I had my second vaccination, and then I called Rob in a shivering mess after 12 hours after. I'm like, Rob, it's 90 degrees and I'm shivering to death here.
Really?
So, but I'm fine now. Yeah.
Which vaccine was it?
I had both Moderna.
Yeah, the second vaccine of Moderna that I had, that left me in a mess. Yeah, 12 hours, I was just like shivering, sweating. Like, according to my fitness track, my resting heart rate, normally I wake up and it's like mid 40s, and I think I woke up and it was like it had gone up to like 60 or something. It was like 15 beats a minute. Sorry, 15 beats. 15 beats a minute higher than normal that night after I'd had it.
Wow.
Yeah. So
it was worse than COVID itself when I had that. Really, it was. Yeah.
Wow. I didn't have that for my vaccine, but when I saw my wife's credit card bill, I reacted that way.
You got card vid. Yeah, we're back inside mass, only 2 weeks and some odd days away from saying, okay, we're gonna open up. All of a sudden, now that this Delta variant, so the biggest cohort right now is the 0 to 17. I get all those charts and data and all that.
Oh.
But everybody else is here, and it looks like the Dow Jones is like there's no bend in it, it's just going.
Well, you got to figure Delta Airlines and Delta Faucets have to find a way to spin this to their advantage.
Yeah, you got to be pretty damn good at that one. How about today? I found out 99.5% of all current deaths are unvaccinated individuals. It's a pretty striking number.
Yeah.
I'm like taking all my money and pushing it on the pass line.
Ooh.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Well, thanks for jumping on, everybody, and let's come back with a good topic next time. Maybe unfortunately, it's always about watching the news and seeing what stupidity happens, and then we join back and talk about it. So we'll just keep going with that.
All right. Thanks, Derek.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. Stay safe. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.